Hey everybody, I am working on a repaint of this A-Wing from the Star Wars X-Wing miniatures game, and as you can see I've already gotten a little bit of work done. If you remember, I did the video on stripping the paint from the model, and if you haven't seen that yet, I'm going to provide a link so that you can jump back there and go see it right now. But in that video, I took down all of the paint that started on the Mini, so that I ended up with what essentially looked like a tiny white plastic model. And now I've already done a little bit of work. Sorry that I've kind of skipped ahead a bit here, but let me explain what I've done so far. The first thing was to cover the entire model with a base coat of Citadel Celestra Gray. Now, I used an airbrush on that, and I did that because the detail on this model is very fine. In fact, I don't think that the original paint job actually had a base gray. I think they started with the white from the plastic. Now an airbrush will allow you to really lay down a very thin coat so that you don't have to worry about filling in all of that really fine detail. But the rest of this so far I have done with a brush. Actually, the rest of this I'm going to do with a brush. And so in order to keep the paint from clogging up the details, I've been thinning it down quite a bit and then building it up slowly. For example, this is the Signar Blue Highlight. Oh, by the way, let me show you what I'm basing this paint job on. This is actually a design painting, or a concept painting from Ralph McQuarrie, who was pretty much instrumental in designing the look of the Star Wars movies. And he came up with this design. This is actually an early version of the A-Wing. And if you look close, you can see some differences between the final and that painting. But I'm not going to go into too much detail there, but that's really the inspiration. For this paint job, it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's going to be pretty close. So anyway, back to the blue. I mixed the blue with quite a bit of Liquitex Airbrush Medium. I've been using that a lot recently in order to thin my paints, because it can create a thin paint without losing the integrity of the paint. You're less likely to get beading. The paint will actually stick, and it'll lay down a really nice smooth coat. So because I had a light undercoat, it took a few passes on the blue to get it to get a nice solid color. But I did that there, and then on the back, and on the little stabilizers. And so far, I like how that's looking. And then I did the white, and I did the white at the top of the stabilizers and behind the cockpit here. That actually still needs a little more work. And then the triangle in front, and there's another one underneath. The triangle actually started with the gray as well, which is why, if you look at it like this, you can see that there is in the recesses, it's a little bit different tone than the white. So once I get all of the base colors in, I'm going to go back and do some weathering. And I've been thinking about this for a while, and I haven't quite figured out exactly what my approach is going to be, but I think I'm going to be using the Citadel shades And I might build some of my own washes using the Liquitex. I think I'm going to have to experiment first with the shades. Maybe in the back near the engines, because those will get a little bit more weathering, I think, than the hull. So back here, I'll use a combination of the earth shade and the null oil, and that will do two things. It'll slide into the details and make the details pop a little bit, but then if I use the brush to give the weathering some direction, then I can, create the weathering effect that you see in the artwork. But first I need to go through and make sure that I've got all of my base colors in before I get to that. And I think I'm going to save the cockpit till last because it's got to be fairly clean, and I don't want to risk getting other paint on there after I've got it to where I want it. So I think that'll be the last thing I do. So there it is for the moment. I'm going to play around a little bit with the shades and well, actually, first I'm going to double check all of my colors and look at the painting and make sure that I've got all my base colors in, and then I'm going to play with the shades, and then I'll come back and show you what I'm doing. Alright, so here we have the before side, and there is the after side. This is actually really simple to get to this point. It's just a little Nuln Oil and then a little Agrex Earth Shade applied lightly. Pretty much straight from the bottle. I started out trying to just concentrate on the details, and then I realized, well, I kind of need to do the whole thing anyway. This is a little much, by the way. Don't really want it to build up on the white. Really just want it in that little crevice there. And I'm going to take off some of the excess. But you really want to make sure it falls into those into the panel lines. That's really one of the most important parts. The other important part, though, is making sure that you're staining the gray to bring it down and make it look dirty. And then when the black dries, I actually went back over this section and this section with the brown, the Agrex Earth Shade, right there. And that just provides an additional an additional color to sort of give it a more natural appearance, so there's sort of more things going on. I also dropped a little bit of color into this recess in here. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to finish up that whole back area, and then I'll come back. So for the upper hull, or should I just say the hull in general, because it applies to the bottom as well, I didn't want the wash to be quite as deep as I did back at the engine area, at least not to start. So what I did is I mixed about a 50-50 mixture of Nuln Oil and Lamian Medium. Now, Lamian Medium is essentially just the colorless portion of the washes, or shades as they call them. And if you add the medium in there, you thin out the shade without affecting how it behaves. It just becomes less strong. So that's essentially what's on here. But then I went back after it dried and started picking out panels with a little bit more of it here, here, here on the other side. Because when you're doing shading when you're doing weathering of a starship, especially, with a rebel starship, they don't get a lot of chances to get detailed. So you're really going for a dirty, unkempt appearance, and so that's what I'm going for here. Is you got panels that look a little bit different, maybe have been on there a little bit longer. They've been weathered. They haven't been really cleaned up in a while. I got some gunk buildup back here behind these panels. I'm probably going to go in with the Agrax Earthshade next and maybe do some streaks from the panel lines and then back slightly. That sort of also gives it a feeling that of motion, that it's been actually traveling and going wherever it is this starfighter's been going. So that's going to be my next step, but you can see overall it's really coming along, and this isn't a ton of work, by the way, and keep in mind that we're talking about what is essentially 3 colors of paint and two shades, and it's really just the application of those colors that really makes this, really kind of sells the final look. And also, keep in mind too how small this thing is, right? That's a paint bottle. That's the model. It's pretty small. So when it's all done, you're looking at this thing, well, probably 4 to 5, 6 times actual size. When you look at it at actual size, it's going to look a lot cooler. And I still think it looks pretty cool up close like this. So, you can just play with it. Weathering is fun. Weathering, I've always loved it. I love making something look more realistic. I like the look that something is used. It really has a lot of life, and it's almost telling its own story. So I'm going to go work on that for a little bit, and then I will come back. I think the other thing I'm going to be doing is I might do the base color of the cockpit, because got to get to that. It's one of the last things. Oh, one other thing. I think I'm going to give the engines a little engine glow back here. Maybe a little golden color. I don't know yet. I got to see if I have a good color for it, or if I can mix one up. But that's it for the moment, and I will see you in a bit. So I'm just about finished now. I might have 1 or 2 details left to do. I might put some a little bit of red on the guns, but otherwise I'm pretty happy with the paint overall. The canopy is basically black, but it has a hint of blue towards the bottom. to represent reflection of the blue off of the hull onto the canopy. So right down here, it's very subtle blue. This actually turned out as good as I'd hoped, which is kind of cool. There's the engine glow, which is fun. I think it's pretty cool. And there's a little bit of not reflected light, but a little cast light, source light on the back ends of the engine cowls. Sort of like it's reflecting the glow coming off of the afterburners back there. So there it is. I'm going to try and get a good picture of it. But I'm pretty happy. I think it's what I'd hoped for. And I hope you've been able to learn something here. Obviously, it's really difficult for me to video the actual process, especially on something this small. I really got to get in close. Very difficult to have the camera in there as well and do any sort of a good job on this. So, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I will answer them as best I can. And thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you later.